On Ash Wednesday, we began this Lenten journey. We began it with fasting and abstinence. And I'm sure most of us were tempted as we journeyed through that day. I know that I was. I had eaten my 2 small meals and my 1 regular meal. I had celebrated my last Mass of the day at 6 o'clock, and then I went back to the house. And then I had that long stretch between the end of Mass and going to bed. And of course, I had not satisfied all of those hunger cravings throughout the day. And then Father Kevin came into the room to eat his last meal of the day, which he chose chips. And they were the best chips I've ever smelled in my life. And I wanted to just get up and rip the bag out of his hands. I wanted to yell at him and tell him to get away from me, Satan. But I didn't, because it was Lent. And sometimes fasting helps us. And really that's what Holy Mother Church understands. And she understands it because it's what Jesus taught us. It says, and there's a particular order, it says that he fasted for 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness. And then whenever he encountered Satan, he was able to withstand him. That's a very brief summary of our gospel today. It was because of his fasting that he was able to withstand him. And that's why fasting, prayer, and almsgiving is so important to us. Is because the whole purpose of Lent is not anything other than to make us better followers of Jesus Christ. That's the whole purpose of this season. Everything we do should have that intention in mind. Every fast, every prayer, every alms given should have that intention in mind, that this is somehow making me a better follower of Jesus Christ. And the great thing is that we can try to come up with all of these elaborate ways to be better followers of Jesus Christ, when Jesus Christ himself says, this is how you can be a better follower of mine. First off, it's fasting. And Jesus teaches us that with his first temptation from Satan. He had been fasting for 40 days and 40 nights. And I know, and you know, that when we fast for 5 hours, we're starving. Our bellies are rumbling, and all that we can think about is food. And we just want it. And so Satan comes to him with that first temptation, because he knows that most human beings are willing to give in to this. You're hungry. You're so hungry. Turn those stones into bread, and your belly won't rumble. Your passions will be given what they desire. Because so often we are ruled by our passions. We are ruled by our bodies. It demands and we respond. And one of the bad things for us as Americans is that we live in this earthly paradise. Everything that we want, anything that we desire is ours for the asking. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We can just run over to the Walmart and get all the cupcakes we want. And it's dangerous for us, because what we have been trained to do is to no longer control our passions. That if you're hungry, you go to McDonald's at 2 a.m. and buy a number 3. If you want something, you get on your phone and you order it. And now with Waiter, anytime that you want a 5-course meal, all you have to do is punch it into your phone. And that's why fasting is so important, is because what Jesus is telling us is that it is not the things that feed the body that's important, it's the things that feed the soul that's important. And what he's saying to us is that we do not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God. Because you see, what our passions ask for and what we usually give them is something that satisfies us right here and right now. But guess what? After we've eaten and sated ourselves, what happens tomorrow? We're hungry again. But whenever we live on every word that comes forth from the mouth of God, we are given something that is everlasting, that is eternal. What God offers us is not to be satisfied in this life, but to be satisfied in the life to come. What God offers us is something that will last for eternity. And that's what fasting teaches us. It also helps us to discipline ourselves so that we allow our will and our intellect to rule our lives and not the passions that we are given. Hunger, greed, lust. No. Every word that comes forth from the mouth of God is what should rule us. And so that's what Jesus teaches us how to do. And that's why our fasting during this Lenten season is so important, because it disciplines us so that we can be better disciples of Jesus Christ. And then he teaches us about prayer through his second temptation. What the devil does is he takes him up to the pinnacle of the temple and he says, jump down from here because God has promised that he will protect you. God has said he would send his angels to guard you lest you dash your foot against a stone. Jump down from here and prove to yourself, that's what he's really saying, prove to yourself that what God says is true. What he's saying is you lack faith. And of course, Jesus says, you shall not put the Lord your God to the test. How often is our prayer life a test for God? God, I want this. God, I need this. God, I want you to do this. God, if you don't do this, I'm going to be upset. And then whenever his answer is no to us, how often do we get angry? Do we get mad? Do we turn away from him? Do we say to him, how could you let this happen to me? You didn't pass my test, God. And what Jesus is saying to us is that we must be open to the will of God in our lives. Because that's what faith is really about, is trusting God. And sometimes God's answer to us is not what we want it to be. Sometimes what he offers us is not what we desire. And so Jesus teaches us about prayer. And what he's teaching us, and this is what we have to keep remembering, is that prayer is not a monologue of us speaking to God and telling him everything that he's done wrong, everything that others have done wrong to us, everything that we want, everything that we need, everything that we desire. That's not prayer. Prayer is a dialogue between us and God. And what we have to do is be open to hearing what he has to say to us. One of the best ways of accomplishing this is through fasting. Fasting from television, fasting from the internet, fasting from our phones and our iPads and our computers. Fasting from all of those things that we allow to consume our lives and never allows for the voice of God to get through. And so let us all work diligently during this Lenten season to pray, not only with vocal, spoken prayer, not simply through our devotions, but also by being quiet and listening to the voice of God speaking to each one of us, because we should not put the Lord our God to the test. The third temptation, though, is the most dangerous. I think it's the one that none of us can answer right here and now that we could withstand. Because Satan offers Jesus everything, all the allurements of the world. He takes him up to a high place and he shows him all the kingdoms of the world in all of their magnificence. And he says, I will give all of this to you. You will be the richest, most powerful, most important person on the face of the earth. That's heady stuff. And all you have to do, it's very simple. is prostrate yourself before me and worship me. All you have to do is put all your faith and trust in the world. All you have to do is believe in the power of the almighty dollar. All you have to do is to believe that your government can fix everything that's wrong in the world today. That it can protect you, it can guard you, it can keep you safe, and make sure that you are never hungry again. It's all you have to do. And I will give you everything. For this fleeting life that you live, you will have everything. It's very tempting. But Jesus reminds us that we are to serve God alone, that we are to worship God alone. And that's where almsgiving comes in. Because you see, whenever we give freely, whenever we give of what we have, whenever it's not about me hoarding my money or keeping my things for myself, whenever we give without expecting anything in return, then we do not worship the world. We do not follow the world. We do not serve the world. We serve God alone. Because all our trust is in Him and what He offers us, and not in what the world offers us. And so all of us should strive ever more eagerly as we make this holy journey together to fast so diligently, to pray with openness to the will of God, and to give alms generously as God has given everything to us, so that we can withstand the temptations of the devil, so that we can withstand them and be better Christians when we reach the end of this Lenten season than when we began it.